The text came through at 4:47 on a Tuesday afternoon, and Iris read it 3 times before the words stopped blurring together. You're great, really, but you overthink everything. I need someone more spontaneous. I'm sorry. She sat on the wooden bench at the edge of the community garden plot, phone cooling in her hand, surrounded by the smell of turned earth and late summer tomatoes. The sun was still warm on her shoulders. Somewhere behind her, someone was laughing. The world kept moving. She'd known this was coming. She'd felt Daniel pulling away for 2 weeks, the longer gaps between texts, the way he'd stopped making plans past the weekend. She'd even started tracking the pattern in her notes app before deleting it in shame, which probably proved his point. You look like you're about to throw that phone into the compost bin. Iris looked up. Kit Marino stood there in her usual uniform, flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled to her elbows, jeans worn soft at the knees, work boots caked with garden dirt. Her dark hair was buzzed short on the sides, longer on top, falling into her eyes. She had a flat of seedlings balanced on one hip. Tempting, Iris said, and her voice came out steadier than she expected. Kit set the seedlings down and sat beside her, without asking. That was Kit. She never asked permission to take up space in Iris's life. She just showed up, steady as weather. What happened? Iris handed her the phone. Kit read the message, her jaw tightening in that way that meant she was biting back her first response. He's an idiot. He's not wrong, though, Iris said, took the phone back, locked the screen. I do overthink everything. I had our date nights color-coded in my calendar. I researched conversation topics before we met up. I made a whole mental list of pros and cons about whether to sleep with him. And the cons won, obviously. Iris left, but it came out thin. I am exhausting, Kit. I plan everything to death. I analyze until there's nothing left but data and anxiety. Kit was quiet for a moment. She reached down, pulled a weed from the edge of the path with one efficient tug. You're not exhausting. You're careful. That's different. Is it? Yeah. Kit brushed the dirt from her hands. Careful people think things through. That's not a crime. Iris leaned back against the bench, closing her eyes. The sun painted the inside of her eyelids red. I want to be the kind of person who can let things unfold naturally, who doesn't need a roadmap for every conversation, who can just exist in the moment without planning 12 steps ahead. Daniel was supposed to teach you that? No, Daniel was always going to leave, and I knew it, so I tried to control all the variables. She opened her eyes. Which is the whole problem. Kit pulled a small notebook from her back pocket, worn leather, pages softened from use. She flipped it open, clicked a pen. The tomatoes need more water, she said, writing something in quick strokes, and the carrots are ready to thin. Iris leaned over to look, curious. You keep gardening notes? Kit closed the notebook before Iris could focus on the page, not quite fast enough to seem casual, and tucked it back into her pocket. Helps me remember what needs doing. You taking notes? Iris raised an eyebrow. You once told me calendars were a conspiracy. I said digital calendars were overkill. Kit stretched her legs out, crossed her boots at the ankle. Plants are different. They need what they need when they need it. Can't exactly improvise watering schedules. They sat in comfortable silence. A breeze moved through the garden, carrying the green smell of growing things. Somewhere nearby, a sprinkler ticked its steady rhythm. I haven't dated anyone in 2 years, Kit said. Iris turned to look at her. What? 2 years, almost 3. Kit stared straight ahead, her profile sharp in the afternoon light. Everyone thinks I'm just busy with work or whatever, but the truth is, I don't want to need anyone. Relationships make you vulnerable. My dad never recovered after my mom left, and I just decided I didn't need that kind of complication. Kit, but it's lonely. Kit's voice stayed even, matter of fact. And maybe I went too far. Maybe I'm so good at being independent that I've forgotten how to let anyone close. Iris felt something tighten in her chest. 9 years of friendship, and Kit rarely said things like this. She was the steady one, the rock, the person who showed up and fixed things with her hands and never seemed to need anything from anyone. "We're kind of a disaster," Iris said. "A matched set." The words landed, and they both smiled. Then Iris heard herself say, "Maybe we should practice on each other." Kit's head turned. What? Dating, relationships, being vulnerable. The idea was taking shape as she spoke, gaining momentum. You need practice letting someone in, I need practice letting go. We already know each other's worst qualities. There's no performance anxiety, no pretending, low stakes. You want to practice date your best friend? I want us to help each other. Iris felt something flutter in her stomach, nervousness, maybe, or something she didn't want to name yet. 6 weeks, real dates, actual vulnerability, the whole thing. But safe, because it's us. We could actually figure this out. Kit was quiet. Iris couldn't read her face. Then, you'd want rules. Obviously. And if either of us caught real feelings, we'd stop immediately. Kit's voice was careful. Friendship first. Always, Iris said, and meant it. Kit pulled the notebook out again, open to a clean page. Her handwriting was surprisingly neat. Straight lines, deliberate letters. Okay, let's do this right. They walked to the coffee shop 3 blocks away, the one with mismatched furniture and indie music playing too loud. They ordered their usual drinks, oat milk latte for Iris, black coffee for Kit, and sat at their table by the window. Kit wrote while Iris talked. 6 weeks total. 1 practice date per week, minimum. They'd escalate gradually. Conversation first, then hand-holding, then more intimate physical contact. They'd practice vulnerability. They'd practice spontaneity, all the things that scared them. And they'd stop the second it became real. This is kind of insane, Iris said, watching Kit's pen move across the page. Completely. Kit looked up, and something bright flickered in her eyes. But it might actually work. They shook hands across the table, formal and slightly ridiculous. Kit's palm was warm and calloused, her grip steady. Iris held on a fraction longer than necessary before letting go. The weight of what they'd agreed to settled between them like a held breath. That night, alone in her apartment above the bike shop, Kit sat on her bed with the notebook open on her knees. The streetlight outside her window cast everything in amber. She clicked her pen once, twice. Then she wrote in the same careful hand, "Day 1 of pretending I haven't been in love with her for 3 years." She closed the notebook and set it on the nightstand, turned off the light. In the darkness, she could still feel the phantom warmth of Iris's hand in hers. She'd agreed to 6 weeks of practice. She already knew how it would end. The coffee shop was exactly the same as it had been 3 days ago when they'd made the pact. Same mismatched furniture, same overplayed indie playlist, same barista with the nose ring who knew their orders. But when Iris walked in and saw Kit waiting at a table by the window, everything felt different. Kit stood when she saw her. That was the first thing. Kit never stood, and she was holding flowers. Yellow daisies still wrapped in plastic grocery store cellophane, price sticker visible on the side. "Hi." Kit thrust the flowers forward, like she was handing over evidence. "I brought these. That's what you do, right?" Iris took them, fighting a smile. "Usually people remove the price tag." "Right. Yeah, I can..." Kit reached for them. "No, they're perfect." And they were. The awkwardness made them better. Iris sat down, set the flowers between them. I brought something too. She pulled out her phone, opened her notes app, turned the screen. A numbered list filled the display. First date conversation topics. Kit stared. You made a list? 12 conversation starters organized by category: personal history, current interests, future goals, hypothetical scenarios for when things lag. Iris. What? You said we should do this properly. Her cheeks warmed. I'm being thorough. Kit leaned back and something shifted in her expression. Amusement, maybe, or something softer. Okay, hit me with topic 1. If you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would it be? You're kidding. It's a classic icebreaker. We've known each other for 9 years. You'd pick your grandmother for her recipes. I'd say nobody because eating with strangers sounds like hell. Kit tapped her fingers against the table. We already know this stuff. Iris closed the app. Fine, what's your idea? Let's practice the hard stuff. Kit leaned forward. Make eye contact with me for 30 seconds. That's not... Dating guides always say that, right? Sustained eye contact builds intimacy. Kit's mouth curved. Unless you can't. It was a dare. Iris met her eyes anyway. Kit had brown eyes, dark enough to be almost black in certain light. Iris knew this, of course she knew this, but she'd never held the gaze this long, never watched the way Kit's pupils dilated, the way her whole face went still and focused. 15 seconds. Iris felt her breath catch. Kit's knee was bouncing under the table. She could see the slight movement in her shoulders. 20 seconds. Kit swallowed. Iris tracked the motion. 25 seconds. Kit's lips parted like she was about to speak. Okay, Iris said, breaking away. Her heart was doing something erratic. That was good practice. Yeah, Kit's voice came out rougher than usual. She cleared her throat. Very educational. The barista called their order. They both jumped at the excuse to move. Kit went to grab the drinks. Iris pressed her palms flat against the table and tried to remember how to breathe normally. When Kit came back, she was smiling. 28 seconds, I counted. I said 30. You said okay at 28. This isn't a competition. Everything's a competition. Kit handed over the latte, her fingers brushing Iris's, lingering just long enough to feel intentional. For a second, it felt like it always had, the two of them, easy and familiar. Except nothing felt easy at all. They debriefed on the walk back to Iris's apartment. Iris pulled up her notes app again, typing as she walked. Overall, successful first attempt. We established proximity, practiced sustained eye contact, and the flowers were a nice touch, even if unpolished. You're writing a performance review. I'm documenting progress. Iris? What? Kit stopped walking. They were on Iris's street corner, late afternoon sun slanting between buildings. You don't have to make this a project. We're just figuring things out. I know. Do you, though? Kit's hand drafted to her back pocket where the notebook lived, then dropped. Because it seems like you're treating this like another thing to optimize. The words landed harder than Kit probably meant. Iris closed her notes app, pocketed her phone. You're right, sorry. I know, Kit's voice softened. But you can't control this. That's the whole point. She started walking again before Iris could respond, hands shoved deep in her pockets. Sunday morning, farmer's market. It opened at 8, and Iris had mapped an efficient route through the stalls. Produce first, then baked goods, then flowers if time allowed. She'd texted Kit the plan. Kit showed up 17 minutes late with coffee and zero regard for the route. We're supposed to start at the vegetable vendors, Iris said. We're supposed to hold hands. Kit held out her palm. Wasn't that the point? Iris stared at the offered hand for a beat too long before taking it. Kit's palm was warm and rough with calluses, her fingers strong from years of working with tools. She laced their fingers together like it was nothing, like they'd done this 100 times before. "There," Kit said. "Now we can get vegetables." They made it exactly one stall before Kit stopped to examine heirloom tomatoes, then handmade soap, then a table of used books. Iris's route dissolved within 10 minutes, but she didn't mind. Kit's thumb moved in slow circles against her palm, unconscious maybe, or maybe not, and Iris couldn't focus on anything else. "How long have you two been together?" The vendor at the honey stall smiled at them, an older woman with gray hair braided thick down her back. She was wrapping a jar of lavender honey, looking at their joined hands. 9 years, Kit said. 9 years, Iris said at the exact same time. The vendor's smile widened. "You can always tell the ones who've been together a while. You move like you're thinking the same thoughts." "Oh, we're not," Iris started. "Just friends," Kit finished, but her hand tightened around Iris's. "Of course you are, honey." The vendor handed over the honey with a knowing look. "That's the best way to start." They walked away still holding hands. Iris felt something flutter in her chest. Panic or something more dangerous. "We should probably," she gestured at their joined hands. "Right." But Kit didn't let go immediately. Her fingers loosened, then tightened once more, brief enough to feel like a question. Then she released Iris's hand and shoved her own back in her pocket. "Same time next week?" "Sure." Iris watched Kit walk toward the bike racks, shoulders set in that careful way that meant she was thinking too hard. She looked down at her own hand. She could still feel the ghost of Kit's touch, the slow circles, the steadiness. That night, Iris lay in bed staring at her ceiling. Distant traffic, someone's air conditioner humming. She reached for her planner on the nightstand, the physical one, graph paper and color-coded tabs. Thursday, movie night at her place. Low stakes, controlled environment. She picked up her pen to add details. Her hand was shaking. She set the pen down, picked it up, set it down again. This was supposed to be safe, structured, 6 weeks with measurable outcomes, but her hand was shaking and she could still feel Kit's thumb tracing circles on her palm, and safe was the last thing this felt like. Week 3, and Iris had color-coded the entire month in her planner. Green for practice dates, blue for normal friend time, yellow for buffer days in case things got complicated. Everything was yellow now. Kit showed up at her apartment on Thursday evening with takeout containers and a careful expression. They'd texted logistics, time, food preferences, whether to watch a movie, but nothing real, nothing that acknowledged the farmer's market. "Hey," Kit said when Iris opened the door. "Hey." They ate pad thai on Iris's couch with too much space between them. The weather, work, a book Iris was reading, Kit's landlord's broken step, every topic felt like filling silence. Finally, Kit set down her container. "This is stupid." "What is?" "We're being weird." Kit turned to face her. "We have 3 weeks left and we're acting like strangers." "We're not." "Iris, you just told me about the weather." Iris set her food aside. "Fine, what do you want to talk about?" "The touch thing." "The touch thing?" "Yeah." Kit's knee started bouncing. "According to your extremely detailed text, we're supposed to practice casual physical affection this week, build comfort with non-sexual touch. Those were your exact words." Iris's face heated. "I was being thorough." "I know." Kit looked at her hands, flexed her fingers. "But I don't actually know how to do that. Casual affection with someone She stopped, swallowed. "With someone where it matters." "It doesn't matter." The words came out too fast. That's the point, it's just practice. Kit's jaw tightened. She looked away and Iris watched her throat work like she was swallowing something back. Right. The air between them felt charged. Iris shifted closer on the couch, closing some of the careful distance. What if I show you? Show me what? How to initiate touch without overthinking. Iris's heart kicked against her ribs. If you want. Kit went very still, then nodded once. Iris reached up slowly, giving Kit time to move away. Her fingers found the longer hair on top of Kit's head, brushing it back from her forehead. Kit's hair was soft, recently washed. Iris let her hand linger before trailing down. Her fingers traced Kit's temple, the sharp line of her cheekbone, the angle of her jaw. Kit's breath caught, audible, sharp. Iris froze. Sorry, was that? No. Kit's voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. Don't stop. So Iris didn't. Her palm curved against Kit's jaw, thumb resting near her ear. Kit's skin was warm. She could feel Kit's pulse jumping fast. Then Kit's hand came up, covered Iris's, pressed it closer against her face. Neither of them moved. The apartment was silent except for our breathing. Kit's eyes were closed, her eyebrows drawn together like she was working through something difficult. Her lips parted. Iris's thumb moved without permission, stroking once along Kit's cheekbone. Kit's eyes opened. They looked at each other from inches away, and Iris's careful planning dissolved into nothing. Kit cleared her throat, pulled back. Iris's hand fell away. Bathroom. She stood quickly, crossed the room, closed the door. The lock clicked. Water ran and ran and ran. Iris sat alone on the couch, staring at her hand. She curled her fingers into a fist, then opened them again, like she could still feel the warmth there. Saturday afternoon, the community garden was busy with weekend volunteers. Iris was deadheading marigolds when she noticed Kit on the far bench. Kit had her notebook out, bent over it with her pen moving fast. Her whole body was curved around the page, like she was protecting something. Iris walked over. What are you working on? Kit's head snapped up. She flipped the notebook closed, too fast, almost fumbling it. Nothing. Parts list. A parts list? For work. Bike parts. Kit shoved the notebook into her back pocket and stood. Very boring. You need help with something? Kit? The tomatoes look stressed. We should water them. She walked away before Iris could push. Iris watched her go, unease settling in her chest. Kit had never been secretive before. She's dedicated, isn't she? Iris turned. Carmen stood there with pruning shears and a warm smile. She was maybe in her 30s, with black box braids pulled into a high ponytail and paint-splattered overalls. Kit? Yeah, she never misses a weekend. I meant dedicated to you. Carmen's smile turned knowing. I asked her out last week. She said she's seeing someone, then looked at you like that. Something sharp twisted under Iris's ribs. We're not together, we're just friends. Okay. Carmen clearly didn't believe her. Well, if that changes, tell her I'm happy for her. She seems like good people. She walked away. Iris stood there holding dead flowers, trying to name the feeling in her chest. She moved to the tomato plants and picked up the hose, started watering. The first plant, then she adjusted the spray, the same plant again. Water pooled around the base. You're drowning that one. Kit was beside her, close enough their shoulders almost touched. Iris jerked the hose to the next plant. Carmen seems nice, Iris said. She is? Did she really ask you out? Kit was quiet a beat too long. Yeah, last week. Oh, I said no. You don't have to say no because of this. Iris kept her eyes on the water, watched it soak into the soil. The practice thing wasn't supposed to stop you from actually dating. I don't want to date her. She's pretty. She seems funny. She clearly... Iris. Kit's voice had an edge Iris had never heard before. I said no. Can we drop it? Fine. They finished watering in silence. When they were done, Kit left without saying goodbye. That night, Iris's phone buzzed. Kit, are we still on for tomorrow? Iris stared at the message, started typing. Of course. Why wouldn't we be? Deleted it. Started again. Do you want to be? Deleted it. Tried. Yes. Same time? Deleted it. Finally sent. Yes. 3 minutes passed, then Kit. Good. Iris set her phone on her nightstand and rolled onto her side. Through the window, she could see the garden below, shadowy in streetlight. She wondered what Kit wrote in that notebook that she guarded so carefully. Wondered why the thought of Carmen asking Kit out felt like something cracking open in her chest. In her apartment above the bike shop, Kit sat cross-legged on her bed with the notebook open. She'd already filled half a page, words coming faster than she could catch them. Her hand on my face like I was something precious. I wanted to turn my head and kiss her palm, wanted to pull her closer, wanted to say, this isn't practice for me. This has never been practice. But I can't. 3 more weeks and we go back to normal. 3 more weeks of pretending I don't love her. She closed the notebook and lay back, staring at the ceiling. The worst part wasn't the pretending. It was how good she'd gotten at it. Iris had scheduled it for 7 o'clock on a Wednesday evening. She'd written it in her planner in green ink. Practice kiss. 7 p.m., garden. Then crossed it out and rewritten it. Then crossed it out again. By 6:30, she'd hung fairy lights in the small garden plot behind her apartment. By 6:40, she checked her breath 3 times. By 6:50, she was sitting on the wooden bench rehearsing the parameters. Lean in slow, 5 seconds. Pull away clean. Simple, controlled, safe. Kit arrived at 7:03, hands shoved in her pockets, looking everywhere except at Iris. Hey, Kit said. Hey, Iris stood, brushed dirt from her jeans, even though there wasn't any. You found it okay. Kit lived 4 blocks away. She'd been to this garden a dozen times. The joke fell flat. Yeah, Kit finally looked at her. So we're doing this. We don't have to. If you don't want to, we can... I want to. Kit's voice was steady, but her hands stayed buried in her pockets. Just processing. Me too. They stood 3 feet apart. The fairy lights overhead cast everything in warm gold. Somewhere down the block, someone was playing music, acoustic and mellow, drifting through the evening air. I thought we should establish ground rules, Iris said. Her voice sounded too formal, so we both know what to expect. Okay. We lean in slowly, let it last about 5 seconds, then pull away. Iris's hands were shaking. She clasped them behind her back. Clean and simple. 5 seconds? Give or take. She tried to sound casual. And we should probably practice more than once to make sure we get it right. Kit's mouth curved slightly. To make sure. Right. The silence stretched. A breeze moved through the garden, carrying the smell of tomatoes and herbs. Iris, Kit said quietly, come here. Iris closed the distance, close enough to see the fairy lights reflected in Kit's eyes, close enough to count the freckles on Kit's nose that only appeared in summer. Kit stepped closer, eliminating the last inches. Ready? Iris nodded. She reached up, her hand finding Kit's jaw exactly where it had been a week ago. Kit's skin was warm. Kit's fingers found the front of Iris's sweater, curled into the fabric. They both leaned in. The kiss started slow, tentative, testing. Lips pressed together, soft and careful. 5 seconds, Iris thought. 5 seconds, and then... But Kit's hand tightened in her sweater, pulling her closer, and Iris made a sound she didn't mean to make. Her other hand came up, fingers threading through Kit's hair, and the kiss deepened. 5 seconds became 10, 15, 20. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Iris's hand was still in Kit's hair. Kit's fingers were still twisted in her sweater. "That was..." Iris started. "Yeah, we should do it again." The words came out rushed. "To make sure we got it right." Kit's eyes were dark, pupils blown wide. To make sure. This time, Iris didn't bother with slow. She pulled Kit back in, kissing her hard enough that Kit made a sound, surprised, wanting. Kit's hands moved to Iris's waist, gripping tight, and Iris pressed closer until there was no space left between them. This kiss was different, desperate, nothing like practice. When they broke apart again, Kit didn't let go. Her forehead rested against Iris's, her breath warm. "Again," Iris whispered, and Kit didn't hesitate. The third kiss was softer, but no less intense. Kit's thumb stroked along Iris's jaw, and Iris melted into it, into her, into everything she'd been trying not to want. When they finally pulled apart for good, they stayed close. Kit's hands on Iris's waist, Iris's hands on Kit's shoulders, the fairy lights glowing overhead. "That was more than 5 seconds, Kit said, her voice rough. "I didn't pout." "Me neither." Iris looked at Kit's mouth, swollen, slightly parted, and felt something crack open in her chest. Kit, I should go." Kit's hand tightened once on Iris's waist, then released. She stepped back, breaking contact. "It's getting late." "It's 7:30. "I know. Kit turned away, ran a hand through her hair. "I'll text you." "Kit, wait." But Kit was already walking away, shoulders tense, hands shoved back in her pockets. She didn't look back. Iris stood alone in the garden, surrounded by fairy lights and the smell of growing things. She touched her mouth, still feeling the pressure of Kit's lips, the warmth of Kit's hands. 5 seconds. She'd planned for 5 seconds. Her planner was inside on the kitchen table, color-coded and organized, and completely useless because she wasn't practicing anymore, and she hadn't been for weeks. They didn't talk about the kiss. A week passed in careful text messages and polite distance. Kit sent logistics. "Are you going to the garden festival Saturday?" And Iris responded with facts. "Yes, I'm helping set up at noon." Nothing real, nothing that acknowledged what had happened under the fairy lights. Iris told herself this was fine. They needed space to recalibrate, to remember what the experiment was actually about. She didn't tell herself that she'd replayed the kiss every night before falling asleep, or that her hand kept drifting to her mouth without permission, or that she'd stopped being able to focus on work for more than 20 minutes at a time. Her illustrations had started featuring 2 figures in every composition, always close but never quite touching. She'd colored everything in her planner yellow, buffer days, safety zones, as if organization could protect her from what she already knew. Saturday arrived bright and unseasonably warm. The community garden had been transformed overnight. String lights crisscrossed between the raised beds, folding tables displayed baked goods and preserves for sale, and a small speaker near the tool shed played acoustic covers of songs Iris half recognized. Volunteers everywhere wore matching green t-shirts with the garden logo. Iris was arranging heirloom tomatoes by size and color at the produce table when Kit appeared. "Hey," Kit said. "Hey." They stood there, 3 feet of charged space between them, not quite looking at each other. Kit's hair was freshly trimmed on the sides, and she was wearing a flannel Iris had never seen, dark blue with pearl snaps, sleeves already rolled to her elbows. Her hands were shoved in her jeans pockets. "Nice turnout," Kit said. "Yeah, good for fundraising." "Right." The silence stretched. Someone laughed too loudly near the bake sale. The music shifted to something with a fiddle. "So," Iris started. "I should," Kit said at the same time. They both stopped, tried to smile, failed. "You go," Iris said. "No, you." "I was just going to say the tomatoes came in really well this year." Kit's expression did something complicated. "Yeah, they did." More silence. This was unbearable. This was what they'd become. 2 people who used to have silent communication down to an art form, now unable to say anything that mattered. "Okay, everyone." Marcus, who ran the composting program, stood on a crate near the center path, waving a clipboard. "We're starting activities in 5 minutes. I need couples for the relay race." Iris's stomach dropped. "Come on, don't be shy." Marcus scanned the crowd. His eyes landed on Iris and Kit. "Perfect, you two. I'm signing you up." "We're not," Iris started. "Oh, don't be modest. Everyone knows you two are always here together." Marcus was already writing their names with a permanent marker. 2 minutes, starting line by the tool shed. People were looking now. Carmen waved from across the garden with an encouraging smile. An older couple Iris recognized from Sunday mornings nodded approvingly. Kit looked at Iris. Iris looked at Kit. "We don't have to," Iris said quietly. "Everyone's watching." Kit's voice was flat. "I know. It's just a relay race." Kit wouldn't quite meet her eyes. "It's fine." It wasn't fine. None of this was fine. But they walked to the starting line anyway, and Iris felt her control slipping with every step. This was too public, too real, too much like the relationship they'd been pretending to practice for. The race was simple. Carry a bucket of water from the rain barrel to your team's container without spilling. Tag your partner, switch. First team to fill their barrel won. There were 4 other couples lined up, all of them actual couples, holding hands and laughing and kissing for luck. "Ready?" Kit asked, finally looking at her. Iris nodded, not trusting her voice. Marcus blew the whistle. Kit grabbed the first bucket and ran. Her movements were efficient and sure, economical, barely spilling a drop. She tagged Iris with a hand to the shoulder, brief, impersonal, and Iris took off. The water sloshed but held. Iris focused on the ground, the path, the container, poured, ran back, tagged Kit. They fell into a rhythm, Kit filling, Iris running, back and forth, no words needed. They'd always been good at this, moving around each other, anticipating next steps, working in sync. They won by nearly 30 seconds. The small crowd erupted in cheers. Someone whistled. Marcus jobbed over with a ribbon made of green felt and garden twine, grinning. "I knew it. I knew you two would crush it. You move like you share a brain." "Seriously, relationship goals," someone else called out. An older woman with a wide-brimmed hat asked, "How long have you been together, dears?" 9 years, Kit said automatically. 9 years, Iris echoed, the words muscle memory. "Oh, that's wonderful. You can always tell the ones who—" "We're just friends," Iris said, but the woman had already turned to congratulate another team, and the words disappeared into the noise. Kit was still holding the ridiculous ribbon. She looked at it like she didn't know what it was, then at Iris. Something passed across her face. Pain, maybe, or regret, too quick to name. "I need water," Kit said, and walked away before Iris could respond. Iris stood there holding a half-empty bucket, surrounded by people who thought she and Kit were together, who saw them as a unit, who couldn't possibly know that everything was actively falling apart. Her hands were shaking. She set the bucket down carefully and pressed her palms against her thighs. This was out of control. This entire situation had spiraled past anything she could manage, and standing here in front of everyone felt like being exposed, like being seen as something she wasn't allowed to be. She needed to fix this. She needed to end it before it got worse. She found Kit 20 minutes later, sitting on the bench at the far edge of the garden where the crowd thinned out. Kit had her notebook open on her lap, bent over it with complete focus, pen moving across the page. Iris approached quietly, her shoes crunching on gravel. "Hey." Kit startled so badly the notebook slipped from her hands. It hit the ground, pages fanning open. Iris bent automatically to pick it up. Her eyes caught on the open page, Kit's handwriting, dense lines of text in blue ink, and there, pressed between pages, a dried flower, a marigold, its petals brown and delicate, the same kind Iris had been deadheading the day Carmen asked Kit out. And at the top of the visible page, a line that started, "When she..." Kit snatched the notebook away before Iris could read more. "Don't. I wasn't... That's private." Kit's voice was sharp, an edge Iris had rarely heard. Her whole body had gone rigid. She shoved the notebook deep into her jacket pocket like she was protecting something breakable. "Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see anything." But she had. Not enough to understand, but enough to know it was about something real, something Kit was hiding. Kit stood abruptly, still wouldn't meet Iris' eyes. "We should head out. It's getting late." "It's 3:00.
"I know. I need to go." They left the festival together, walking in silence toward the neighborhood blocks that would eventually split them in different directions. The sun was still high and warm. Kids were playing basketball in a driveway. Someone was grilling, the smell of charcoal smoke drifting across the street. Normal Saturday things, the world continuing like nothing was breaking. At the corner where they usually separated, Kit stopped. "Iris?" "Yeah?" Kit opened her mouth, closed it. Her hand drifted to the pocket where the notebook was, pressing against it like a talisman. "This whole thing, it's..." "I know." "Do you?" Kit's voice cracked slightly. She finally looked at Iris and her eyes were desperate, searching. "Because I don't think you do." "Then tell me." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because we said..." Kit's jaw worked. "We said we'd stop if real feelings developed. That was the rule. We agreed." Iris's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Are you saying you have real feelings?" "Are you?" They stared at each other. Cars passed. Someone's dog barked 3 houses down. The moment stretched, fragile and enormous and terrifying. Iris opened her mouth. The truth was right there, pressing against her teeth. Yes, I have real feelings. I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you for weeks, maybe longer, maybe always. But saying it meant losing control completely. It meant admitting she'd failed at the one thing she was trying to master. It meant risking everything. A car honked. They both flinched. A neighbor leaned out the window, waving. "Hey, you two, great job at the festival." They waved back automatically. The car drove on. The moment shattered like dropped glass. "I should go," Kit said quietly. "Kit, wait. I'll see you around, Iris." Kit walked away. Iris watched her go, standing on the corner with her hands useless at her sides, unable to make her feet move, unable to call out, unable to do anything but watch the person she loved disappear around the corner. That night, Iris lay in bed staring at her ceiling. The festival ribbon was on her dresser, green and absurd. Her planner was still open on the nightstand. This week's page a sea of yellow highlighting, every day a buffer, every hour a safety measure that hadn't worked. They had 3 weeks left in the experiment. 3 weeks of pretending, of practicing, of slowly tearing each other apart. Or they could stop now, end it clean, go back to being friends before they destroyed that too. Iris picked up her phone. The screen's blue light hurt her eyes in the darkness. She typed, "I think we should talk," stared at it, deleted it, typed, "I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you. I don't know when it started, but I can't stop and I'm terrified." Stared at it for a full minute, deleted it. Her hands were shaking. She could fix this. She could control this. She could end it on her terms before it got messier, before they said things they couldn't take back, before she lost Kit entirely. She typed, "I think we should end the experiment early. We proved what we needed to prove. We learned what we wanted to learn. Thank you for doing this with me." She stared at the message for 5 full minutes, her thumb hovering over the send button. Then she pressed it and watched the message turn from blue to delivered. The response came in less than 2 minutes. Kit, "Yeah, you're probably right. Mission accomplished." Iris stared at the words, waited for more, a follow-up, an explanation, a question, anything. Her phone stayed silent. She set it down on the nightstand and rolled onto her side, pulling her knees to her chest, making herself small. She'd wanted control over the experiment, over her feelings, over the outcome. She'd wanted to manage every variable and predict every result and protect herself from the chaos of real, uncontrollable love. And she'd succeeded perfectly, which meant the person she loved was gone.
3 weeks passed like a slow bleed. Iris stopped going to the garden. She told herself it was considerate, that she was giving them both space. She didn't admit it was cowardice. She worked from home, took illustration commissions she would have normally turned down, ordered groceries in quantities that made no sense. Her pantry filled with duplicate jars of things she already had. Her planner sat untouched on the kitchen counter, still open to the week she'd sent the text. Every time she walked past it, she meant to turn the page. Her hand would reach out, stop, drop. By the second week, she'd reorganized her art supplies 3 times. By the third, she'd stopped answering calls. Kit's contact sat in her phone like an unexploded device. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. On Thursday morning of the 3rd week, Iris woke at 5:40 and made the mistake of looking out her window. Kit was in the garden. The sky was still gray-pink, the world soft-edged and quiet. Kit knelt between the tomato plants, pulling weeds with methodical precision. She'd been there a while. The pile of debris beside her was substantial. Her flannel was dark with dew. Iris watched from behind the curtain, barely breathing. Kit moved from plant to plant, checking leaves for blight, adjusting stakes, watering with the same steady care she'd always shown. Like this was still her responsibility, like she couldn't stay away either. Kit paused, pressed the heel of her hands against her forehead, stayed there. The gesture looked exhausted. Iris's fingers closed around the door handle. The metal was cool and real. She held it, then let go. She stepped back from the window and sat on the floor with her back against the wall. Saturday morning, Iris found a basket on her doorstep. 6 perfect tomatoes, still warm from yesterday's sun. Roma, the kind they'd planted together back in May when the experiment was still just an idea. No note, no explanation. Iris carried them inside and set them on the counter. They were beautiful, perfectly ripe, unblemished. Kit had been tending these plants alone for weeks, harvesting at the exact right moment, leaving them here anyway. Iris picked one up, felt the weight in her palm. She put it down carefully, and gripped the counter edge until her knuckles went white. Sunday afternoon, her friend Leah showed up unannounced with coffee and an expression that meant she wasn't leaving. "You've been ignoring me," Leah said, settling onto the couch. "I've been busy." "You've been hiding." Leah handed her a cup. "What happened with Kit?" Iris had mentioned the practice dating experiment a month ago, made it sound manageable. She hadn't explained how it ended. "I ended it." "Why?" "Because it spiraled." "How?" Iris stared at her coffee. "Real feelings. Mine. Hers. I don't know." Her throat tightened. It was supposed to be structured, safe, and instead we were too visible, too public. I couldn't manage it anymore, so I stopped it. Leah was quiet for a long moment. "Let me make sure I understand. You fell for your best friend, and instead of telling her, you bailed to stay in charge of the situation. It wasn't a real relationship, it was practice." "Iris." "What?" "You picked safety over her." Leah leaned forward. "You've been doing this your whole life. The planners, the contingency plans, the risk assessments. But this isn't a project. Loving someone means letting go." "I don't know how." "I know," Leah's expression softened, "but maybe that's what you should have been learning all along." After Leah left, Iris sat in the growing darkness and thought about what she'd actually done. The text message, the clean break, the refusal to fight, because fighting meant admitting she'd already lost. She'd been so afraid of ruining the friendship that she'd destroyed it herself. Monday evening, Kit sat on her apartment floor with her phone in one hand and Carmen's contact on the screen. Carmen had texted that afternoon, "Hey, I know you said you were seeing someone, but if that's changed, I'd still love to grab coffee sometime. No pressure." Kit stared until the screen dimmed. Carmen was nice, available, safe. She started typing. "That would be great. When are you free?" Her thumb hovered. Her hand was shaking slightly. She'd been sleeping badly, her jaw aching every morning from clenching. She thought about coffee with Carmen, thought about trying to laugh while thinking about Iris, thought about holding someone else's hand and feeling nothing but absence. She deleted the message, started again. "I appreciate it, but I can't. I'm in love with someone else." Hit send before she could overthink it. Carmen's response came 5 minutes later. "I know. I've known since the festival. You should tell her." Kit's chest tightened. She typed, "She doesn't feel the same." "Carmen, are you sure? Because from where I was standing, she looked at you the exact same way you look at her." Kit set her phone down and lay back on the floor, staring at the ceiling until the light outside died completely. Tuesday morning, Kit was back at the garden before sunrise. The tomato plants were starting to show stress from cooling nights. The basil had begun to flower, turning bitter. Summer crops fading, everything shifting toward autumn, toward endings. She tied up a sagging branch, dead-headed the spent marigolds, mulched around the peppers. Maintenance, the only language she had left. She looked up at Iris's window. Curtains drawn, same as yesterday. Kit's jaw tightened. She went back to work. Wednesday evening, Iris stood at her window in the darkness, watching Kit move through the garden in the last light. Kit's movements were slower. Her shoulders curved inward in a way they'd never been. She was still showing up, still tending what they'd built together, even though Iris had walked away, even though it cost her something. And suddenly, Iris understood. This was what it meant, not managed outcomes or strategic planning. It was showing up anyway. It was watering someone else's garden when they'd stopped coming. It was leaving tomatoes on a doorstep without demanding anything back. It was Kit, alone in the fading light, refusing to abandon something just because it hurt. Iris had spent 3 weeks trying to prove she could protect herself through distance and silence. Kit had spent those same weeks proving something else entirely. Iris pressed her hands against the cold glass. Her reflection stared back, hollow-eyed, tired, alone. She'd spent her whole life building walls disguised as plans. She'd convinced herself that staying in charge meant staying safe, that managing variables was the same as protecting what mattered. But the only thing she'd protected was her own fear. Iris stepped back from the window, grabbed her keys from the hook, shoved her feet into shoes without tying them, and for the first time in 3 weeks, she opened her door and started running. Iris ran. Her untied shoes slapped pavement, laces whipping her ankles. 2 blocks, 3. Streetlights flickered on, washing everything amber. She had no plan. She just ran. The garden gate stood unlocked. She pushed through. Earth and ripe tomatoes and wet soil. Kit was there, kneeling by the pepper plants, back to the gate. The worn leather notebook bulged in her jacket pocket. A watering can rested in the dirt. Iris stopped, doubled over, lungs burning. Kit turned at the sound of gravel. They stared. Kit stood slowly, brushed dirt from her knees. Iris. "I'm sorry." The words came between gasps. "The text, I shouldn't have." Kit's jaw tightened. "Okay. That's it? What else?" Kit's hands curled. "You ended it. This is what you chose. You're here every day. The tomatoes. I take care of the garden. It's more than that. There is no us, Iris." Something flickered behind Kit's eyes. "You made that clear." The words landed hard. Iris straightened, still breathing rough. "I panicked. I was scared. Obviously. Do you know why?" Iris stepped closer, soil catching at her shoe. Kit looked away. "I wasn't protecting the friendship," Iris's voice cracked. "I was protecting myself from how much I wanted you." Kit went still. "The experiment was supposed to be safe, structured." Iris swallowed. "But then you touched me and everything shifted. At the festival, everyone thought we were together and I wanted them to be right, so I ended it via text. Yes, very you. I watched you from my window for 3 weeks." Iris's hands trembled. "Couldn't face this." "So what changed?" Kit's voice roughened. "Why now?" Iris closed the distance. 3 steps. Kit smelled like soil and laundry detergent. "You, showing up every day, leaving tomatoes. You taught me what it actually looks like." Kit's hand drifted to her pocket where the notebook was. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't say things you'll take back tomorrow." "My hands are shaking right now." "So are mine." "But I'm here anyway." Iris reached out slowly. Her palm found Kit's jaw. Warm skin, slight stubble. "I'm in love with you. Not practice. Real." Kit's breath caught. Her fingers tightened around the notebook through fabric. "You don't..." "Yes, I do. Tomorrow you'll panic, and I can't survive that twice." "Maybe I will." Iris's thumb traced Kit's cheekbone. "But I'm still choosing this. I'm done running." Kit's eyes were bright, wet in the fading light. "I love you." Kit's free hand came up, covered Iris's. Her palm was calloused and cool. "This isn't practice anymore." "No." "No rules, no safety net?" Iris held her gaze. "Losing you is worse than anything else." Kit closed her eyes. A tear slipped. Iris caught it. 3 years, Kit whispered. Iris went still. What? I've been in love with you for 3 years. Kit opened her eyes. Since you made me that plant guide, since I realized everything good in my life was better because you were in it. The notebook. Kit's hand pressed hard against her pocket. Yeah. You've been writing? Every day. Everything I couldn't say. And then I suggested we practice dating. The full weight crashed over Iris. And I said yes, because apparently I'm an idiot who thought 6 weeks of pretending would be enough. Kit's laugh came out broken. Thought I could just stop when time ran out. But you couldn't. Every time you called it practice, Kit stopped. Her throat worked. Like I was teaching you how to love someone else? There's no one else. Iris's other hand came up, cradling Kit's face. Just you. Only you. I was too scared to see it. Are you sure? Kit's voice cracked. Because if you walk away again... I'm not. I'm choosing you, even though I have no idea what happens next. Kit's hands found Iris's waist, gripped tight. What if we destroy this? We already did. Might as well see what we build after. Iris met her eyes. I love you, not as practice, just as the truest thing I know. Kit kissed her. Not like before. This was desperate and real and tasted like salt and promise. Kit pulled her closer, and Iris went willingly, 3 weeks of distance collapsing. When they broke apart, they were both shaking. The air had cooled. Crickets started their evening song. I'm still scared, Iris whispered. Me too. I'm probably going to panic tomorrow and make a spreadsheet about us. Kit laughed, actual laughter, warm and real. I'll hide every planner in your apartment. I need you to be patient. Iris, Kit's forehead pressed against hers. I waited 3 years, however long you need. What if I never figure it out? Then we don't. We just keep showing up. Kit's thumb traced Iris's jaw. No more running, no more hiding, just us. Iris nodded, throat too tight for words. They stood there as the last light died, crickets loud now, the garden settling into night around them. They held each other like they were the only fixed points left. And for the first time in 3 weeks, Iris could breathe.